Save me, I beg you!
For one of my reputation for daring wit and cunning, that was a dazzling display of indecision.
Conquests of the Longbow, a point-and-click adventure from 1991, is arguably the best Robin Hood game, and in it, you can become the worst Robin Hood ever. Let me show you. Here's an early scene. We've got Robin Hood, a peasant, and one of the sheriff's men. There's the obvious solution. You can also screw up, and I mean really screw up. Oh, by the way, this game doesn't have voice acting, so I asked a lot of friends to help out because the video's more interesting that way. If you walk up to Jack, he warns you not to take another step.
Not another step, or the woman dies.
Coward. You'd use a woman as a shield.
Step back, or you'll find out quickly enough.
True to his word, if you try that twice more...
You dog! He's dead, but what a hollow victory.
Surprisingly, this isn't a game over. It keeps going, though at the cost of your score and possibly your ending. You can also walk down the road, come back, and the characters react appropriately.
We have unfinished business, villain.
Fa, make your move, outlaw. I grow tired of such childish games.
Do that a second time, and Roger shows up, crossbow in hand.
Stand fast and...
That's a good thing I decided to come up the street and meet you. Do you know who that was?
Some miserable piece of scum-sucking outlaw.
That was Robin Hood.
Well, for such a famous outlaw, he didn't seem to have much of an idea how to go about his business.
Oh well, he can go about the business of rotting now.
And speaking of not knowing how to be Robin Hood, you can also leave. You can give up. This is why I love Conquests of the Longbow, and we've barely scratched the surface. Today, you'll learn about the game's incredible attention to detail, behind-the-scenes info on how it really works, and I'll show you why I haven't been able to get Longbow out of my head for 30 years. The game opens with a troubadour singing the basic premise of the story. King Richard, on his way back to England from the Crusades, is captured by King Leopold of Austria. Leopold then demands 100,000 marks for King Richard's ransom. Richard is confident that his people will raise the money, but the evil Prince John secretly vows that his brother will never be free. The game skips all the stories of how Robin met his men. We come into this world a fully formed outlaw with our band already established. We gain control in Robin's cave, where we grab our money and a horn that we can later use to summon our men if we need to. The top of the screen shows the ransom money we've gathered, which is different from our personal coin. It also shows our score and the number of outlaws. There are only 5 core outlaws that we interact with, and we meet most of them when we exit the cave.
Morning. We've broken our fast, but mayhap Tuck will share some of his fish with you.
From the gaunt and starving look of our good friar, I fear you'll be left begging.
I'll remember that jibe when it comes time to dole out the stew tonight.
Mercy on me, Tuck, or I'll be too weak to play your favorite tunes.
You know the old Norman saying, Alan, never make an enemy of the cook.
I can see there's no point in hanging about here, listening to these two prattle. I'll be in the glade, practicing.
What of you, Little John?
Thought I'd head to the Overlook and see if anyone of interest comes along Watling Street. Tuck says our treasury could use a boosting.
The game is broken up into 13 days. Each day has tasks to complete in order to progress. Our first day has 3 objectives, and you can do them in any order. First, we'll follow Will to the shooting glade, where we meet a new outlaw, Simon. We can also practice our shooting. It's a cool minigame that takes into account both distance and wind.
A masterful shot, Robin. Methinks this will be a good day to wager against you. Your shooting is terrible.
The menu has an arcade setting that adjusts the difficulty of sections like this. Putting it at the bottom will auto-complete the arcade sections. This was done for accessibility reasons. To quote Richard Aronson, the lead programmer, "My brother-in-law was a quadriplegic. He used to play Sierra games with a wooden stick strapped to his forehead to hit the keys. Then he hit one of our mini-games, and he'd have to wait until the nurse beat the mini-game for him to continue. So when I started at Sierra, I said, we should have a bypass where you beat the mini-game with a score of 0, but you can progress for people who are physically challenged. At the Shooting Glen, if you put the arcade setting all the way down, you can't even practice here because there's no need."
Sooth, I have no need for practice. One cannot improve upon perfection.
Next, we walk through the forest to the Watling Street overlook. Finding it will add the location to our fast travel map. John arrives, tells us he saw a sheriff's man heading up the road, and that he's off to see the widow. As John suggested, we wait here for a bit until a peasant shows up, pursued by the soldier. We walk down, confront the soldier, and this is the scene we explored just a moment ago. There are a few other things we can try. Offering coin in exchange for the woman's safety doesn't work. We can summon our men with the horn, but Jack threatens to harm the peasant if they don't back off. We can even step to the side of the road and try to convince him to walk past.
Why do you hesitate? The way is open.
Do you take me for a dolt? When I pass by, you'll just shoot me in the back.
If we mess it up by walking away, the game actually gives us another chance. It's not obvious, but you can click on some parts of the fast travel map even if they aren't obvious points of interest. If we click a bit further down the road, we catch up with them. You don't have to do this though. After the success or abject failure with the peasant, we visit the widow's cottage where we meet her 3 sons. They aren't part of Robin's crew, but they are allies and offer to help with supplies and spying in Nottingham. At each day's conclusion, Robin's band gathers around the fire for banter and recap. If we chose to play the coward and run away, we learn the peasant threw herself from the castle rather than suffer at the hands of the sheriff's men. Friar Tuck tries to tell you that it wasn't your fault, but the game knows better. In our canon playthrough, of course, the peasant fared much better. Even so, Robin's mood is melancholy.
Don't you dream of living as free men, able to walk in town without fear, to love a woman knowing you could stay beyond morn?
Ah, there's the nub of the matter. You need a good woman, Robin. I know this lass with huge tracts of land.
Alan, you said I could meet her.
Then I drink to your good fortune much. As for me...
Robin passes out from drink and Little John carries him to bed. Robin dreams of a woman, dark-haired, dancing in the willow grove. Longbow was an early example of rotoscoping in games, this scene included. According to Christy Marks, the game's designer, this dance was choreographed on the spot.
She's gone. But there's something here. A glittering green stone where she stood. The willows. I hear them whisper her name. Marion. Marion.
Robin wakes up and finds that the dream was more than just a dream. I really like the first day. If you pay attention to the dialogue, what you need to do is clearly signposted. Many classic adventure games were not like this, and you had to wander around aimlessly. Though, to be fair, this game does have some of that too, as we'll see in a moment. The characters feel like they've known each other for a long time with their banter, and I really like the characterization. But what does this gleaming gem mean? And what of this Marion? Robin wakes up, and there's a very rare event here that I almost guarantee you haven't seen, even if you've played this before. On most days, Robin can use his horn in the cave. It's really loud, and Robin refuses to blow it in the cave ever again. If you try, he won't let you. But if you blow the horn at the start of day 2, and only before you leave the cave, you get a special sound effect and extra text because Robin's still recovering from his hangover.
Odds blood. My head nearly burst, and I sounded like the bleat of a dying swan.
As Robin shows the gem to his men, Will approaches with a message. Lob, the cobbler from Nottingham, has news about the fate of King Richard. He requests a meeting in town and demands that you bring a lady's slipper to prove your identity. Tuck rightly points out that Robin can't walk into Nottingham without being hanged on the spot. And actually, yep, the game lets you do it. By the way, this is a real pub that is still there today, the Old Trip to Jerusalem pub. It claims to be the oldest inn in England, though from some cursory research, that claim is disputed. Anyway, we need to find that lady's slipper. This part is a little unintuitive because you have to wander around the forest. You'll start to notice the different tree groves, which are beautifully illustrated in the manual. There are also certain screens where you can have an encounter. The second time you enter one of these screens, this happens.
Help me! Help!
'Tis her, the woman I dreamt of. Dog of a monk, let her go!
Thank you, bold outlaw. This slipper is your first reward, and there may be other rewards, if you are wise enough to earn them.
We'll meet again, my lovely Marion, for I've many a sweet reward in mind.
Oh, wait, weren't we supposed to...
The slipper, by my troth, what a fool I am. I left it upon the forest floor.
I thought you might want it, so I picked it up myself and left it in your cave.
If you forget the slipper, Much picks it up for you. Again, the game lets you really screw up, and most of the time gives you a way out. This is also the last useful thing this character does in the entire game. Day 2 is less fair than Day 1 because you have to wander around the forest, which is pretty empty, with a few exceptions. If you stay on a forest screen long enough, you'll see a pixie run by. There were also supposed to be some forest creatures. There are views for a squirrel and a bird, but these aren't referenced anywhere. There is also a random chance for a bunny to appear, or for a group of deer. In practice, because of some other code, neither of these things can be seen. Well, almost. There is a way to find the bunny in the game, but it's so obscure, most players have never seen it. And it's pretty technical, so... Okay, fine, stop twisting my arm, I'll tell you. Every forest screen is actually just one screen, but with the foliage rearranged. Now, when you enter the forest, the game sets two variables. These track whether you can see the bunny and whether you can see the deer. The answer to both of these questions is yes or true to begin with. Then, the game searches for reasons to say no. This might be whether a special event is happening, like Marion getting attacked. For the most part, it's checking if you're on one of these screens. ScumVM developer Sluicebox calls this a logic gauntlet. If you manage to make it through all that unscathed, the game rolls the dice. A 1 in 9 chance for the bunny, and a 1 in 26 chance for the deer. Now, I do not have the patience to decipher which of these numbers corresponds to what part of the map. So, I went to an undisclosed location to meet someone who does know. This person, who may or may not have been Sluicebox, patiently explained all of it. There are only 4 forest screens where you can see the bunny, and 4 where you can see the deer. But there are 2 problems which make this almost impossible. First, these variables, to see if the animals appear, only get reset to true when you enter the forest. They are not reset if you're moving around from screen to screen inside the forest. Second, to get to any of the animal screens, you have to walk through a non-animal screen first. To give an example, here's one of the bunny screens just southwest of the widow's cottage. So let's go to the widow's cottage and walk south. First, the variable is true. Then, it's false because we're not supposed to see the rabbit here. We then walk west. Even though we should be able to see the rabbit, we can't because this is still false from the previous screen. But there's a way around this. If we're on a forest screen and go to the map and then click on the forest again, we'll go back to that same screen. So, repeat this until you get lucky. You would be able to do this with the deer, except for one thing. There's a check, only with the deer, that says you have to enter the screen by walking in from the left or from the right. So, mapping in won't work, and you'll never see the deer without hacking the game. This may seem like an excessive amount of excitement over a bunny, but it's kind of like, imagine one day you boot up 1-1 and suddenly out of nowhere, there's the duck hunt dog in the background. It's not really mind-blowing, but it also kind of is, and that's what this is like, for me. Again, a big thanks to Sluicebox for discovering how to see the little critter. There's no way I would have been able to figure this out on my own. The next morning arrives and we must meet with the cobbler, but we need a disguise to get into Nottingham. We head back to the Overlook until a beggar makes his way down the road. Obviously, he won't just hand over his clothes. As a kindly outlaw, we gift some coin and new clothes in exchange for his outfit.
For such a bargain, you can have the rags, hump, and all. I'll even teach you a few tricks.
No need, friend beggar. I've enough tricks of my own.
But in an alternate timeline, evil Robin handles the situation more directly.
I've a mind to have those rags you wear. Will you give them to me? Or will I add a new hole over your heart?
You verminous scum! I've no weapon or armor. I'm only a poor, wretched beggar.
In another second, the arrow will slip from my fingers.
Aye, I'll give them to you, and may you enjoy every flea they contain. I curse your name, Robin Hood. You've stolen all I possess, and my livelihood to boot.
I've let you live. That's good enough.
Up until now, Robin has either been heroic or merely incompetent. This feels different. But even if this isn't the decision we made, knowing we had the choice makes being heroic even more satisfying. Now that we have our disguise, we shuffle into town. We show Lob the slipper, so he acknowledges our identity and confides in us. The Queen is trying to raise 100,000 marks for King Richard's ransom, but the scheming Prince John doesn't want his brother ever released and conspires with both the sheriff and abbot of Nottingham. The prince has diverted 50,000 marks of the Queen's treasure into his own pocket. The treasure will travel on Watling Street, giving Robin the perfect opportunity to steal it back for the rightful king. Robin is on board with this, but he's also a little preoccupied.
As for the treasure, I must leave tomorrow and travel to York to learn what I can. I'll send warning of their departure date to you through Lady Marian.
Then I will see more of her.
Robin's not the only one a tinge bit obsessed, though. You can, through negligence, let Marian die on day 2.
Not much of an outlaw, are you?
Then, on this day, you stupidly let it slip that Marian is no more.
You were there and did not save her? Let this be your just punishment, you coward!
I can almost hear a tune for this. Bang, bang, cobbler's silver hammer came down on his head.
I've heard that one before.
Aside from a few other minor incidents, this is the only major dead man walking situation. Everything else, even if you screw up beyond all possible belief, you can keep going and finish the game. Back in the canon timeline, Lob gives us a silver comb to prove to Marian that we spoke with him. We are to meet her in the Willow Grove, the same one from our dream. If we leave Nottingham at this point, the day ends and we burn the beggar's outfit. I don't know, having a disguise seems useful, but...
I'm glad to see it burn. I swear, in one day of wearing those tatters, I've gained 1,000 flea bites.
So if we want to have any more fun in the beggar's clothes, we have to do it before leaving. Begging at the Abbey goes as well as you would expect, given its corrupt leadership.
There's nothing for you here. Be on your way.
We don't fare much better at the pub.
Have you no charity in your heart?
Aye, for those who deserve it.
And we get the warmest welcome at Nottingham Castle.
Charity, good sir. Charity for the wretched and afflicted.
I'll show you afflicted.
Yo!
There's also a rare death here. You see, in this game, you can give away a lot of stuff. For example, the silver comb that Lob just gave us.
How'd you come by this?
A gift from a kind lady.
Most likely stolen, I say. What lady would give such a fine thing to a filthy piece of work like you? I'll show you how we deal with wastrel thieves in Nottingham. With a rope.
Rather an odd thing for Robin to do. What would a sheriff's man want with a silver comb?
Likely he just acted without thinking.
Let us hope Robin adhered to the golden rule.
What, you mean do unto others as they would do unto you?
Nay, I mean save early, save often.
Once we leave Nottingham, the beggar's disguise is gone, so this is the only opportunity to see this. Because we need to prove our loyalty to King Richard's cause, on day 4, we head to the Willow Grove as Lob instructed.
I'm most pleased to see you again. I beg you to stay longer this time.
That will depend on you, for I've yet to decide if I may fully trust you.
There's no way to really screw this conversation up, but if you leave and come back, Marion remembers your hesitation. She appears to find it a little endearing at first.
You seem confused and uncertain. I'll try to be patient with you. Come, stand here in the center.
As you wish.
Now stand fast in that place until our business here is done.
My feet refuse to move. What have you done to me?
I cannot wait all day for you to come and go at will. My spell holds you within the circle until I choose to release you.
We show Marion the comb, reaffirming our allegiance to King Richard. Marion tells us more about the monk who attacked her. He was part of an order of soldiers in allegiance with Prince John. They've stolen a scroll upon which is drawn the outline of a hand. This is vital to her plans. Robin vows to steal the scroll back.
I cannot tell how glad you make me, for I'd despaired of ever finding a way.
Glad enough to reward me with a kiss?
Perhaps, when you've earned one.
Before we leave, we show Marion the Heart Emerald and tell her of our dream.
It was you! I also dreamt, but I couldn't see you. I danced and felt you watching, but I wasn't afraid. I felt they were the eyes of my true love. Ever since I saw you, I hoped. You see, I also found a token when I awoke.
Did you create this?
It can only be a gift from the Blessed Lady, the Virgin Queen of Heaven, whom I serve. I'm a priestess of the ancient powers. I dance the spiral dance for the health and regeneration of the forest. Do you feel the renewing force of the emerald and diamond joined? Together, they could heal any hurt.
The two pledge their love, and Marion departs. The only other thing to do on this day is wait at the Watling Street Overlook for a sheriff's man and a poacher. It plays out basically the same as the peasant on day 1. We can act like Robin Hood, or not bother.
You're all quite glum tonight. Is something amiss?
Robin saw a sheriff's man who had a peasant under arrest for poaching.
So he rescued him, of course. Ah, then you would have cause to be glum. It would sound poor indeed to sing of how Robin stood by and did naught against this evil.
All men are subject to weakness of the spirit.
Some more than others. You will only get this conversation if you abandon the poacher. If you save the poacher or get him killed on the road, the conversation is much merrier.
Well, treasure seeker, you've been uncommon quiet upon the lady's virtues now that you've truly met her.
Aye, you've told us of this mission you must undertake and the odd skull she wants you to fight.
But of Marion herself you say nothing.
Perhaps he knows you'd wrap it up into some bit of bawdy nonsense, using song and lute to torment us, as indeed you do each night.
Why, you pizzle-nosed wretch, I could sing the angels down from the heavens.
And the skirts over a wench's head.
Yet for all my skill I could not charm a maid to glance twice at you.
Cease, lads. If I say naught of Marion, 'tis only because words fail me.
Odds blood, this sounds serious, lads. Our Robin is well and truly smitten.
On the morning of day 5, Alan tells us that Tuck's gone off to visit the widow. Again.
He claims he's only interested in her wool, but I suspect he's doing a bit of wool gathering, if you know what I mean.
Originally, I thought wool gathering was a more scandalous euphemism than it actually is. The phrase means to indulge in aimless thoughts or daydreams. Even so, the way Alan says it, you know. Sadly, the truth is much more dire. The widow's sons have been arrested and are to be hanged. Like most of the other days, we head over to Watling Street. This time, we encounter two monks going in opposite directions. We have a choice. If we meet the Abbey monk, then we'll rescue the widow's sons this day. If we choose the Fens monk, we'll go after Merrigan's scroll. Whichever one we don't do on this day, we'll do on the next day. When you walk down, which monk you get seems to be based on where you click and where the monks are in the road. But if you use the hand icon, you can directly choose. For this playthrough, let's start with the Abbey monk.
Why is it that a man of the cloth requires so much cloth to cover his enormous belly? What of those who go hungry while you eat well?
Well,
What a useless bloody conversation this is.
No conversation? Works for me.
I'll have your robe, now!
Hey, whatever you want. Anything. Don't kill me, I beg you. Take my robe, but spare me. Have mercy.
That's the evil choice, of course. Back over in Good Guy Land, Robin merely approaches the monk and he crumbles in fear. In either path, we take his robe, which is okay because this is a corrupt monk. He's taken back to camp to learn the value of good, honest labor. I wonder what that looks like.
Keep chopping, or I'll reward you with the flat of my blade again.
Now that we're disguised as a monk, we can rescue the boys. Let's head to the Abbey to start the longest sequence of the game. There's a laundry room with 3 conspicuous robes. We'll take those. The abbot sits in the refectory playing with a puzzle box said to contain a magic ring.
This bloody puzzle box is driving me mad and I'm down to my last mug of ale. Trot over to the pub and get me more of his most potent brew.
At the pub, before we refill the abbot's cask, we can partake a little ourselves. Just be careful not to imbibe too much.
Innkeeper, we want mugs of your best.
Aye, let's toast to Prince John.
How dare you toast that worm, that snake who slithers in the muck.
Shut up, drunkard.
Death to John the traitor. God save King Richard.
Just for that, you'll spend a night in the dungeon. Take him, lads.
Of all the times to become drunk.
The devil took over Robin's tongue, I wager.
The devil may have him now, I'm sad to say.
So instead of that, we refill the abbot's cask with ale, and the barkeep tells us of the short way back. The inside of this barrel leads to tunnels in the sandstone, which lead to a hidden entrance behind the abbey tapestry. The abbot invites us to drink. You can deny his request, but if you do, you miss out on quite a bit of story. If you accept, one of the monks takes the puzzle box to the abbot's room, and then...
Have another mug!
'Tis potent ale, indeed. My head spins.
Ha! No stomach for ale.
Abbot, I know this face. It's the outlaw, Robin Hood.
Madonna, send for the sheriff.
So obviously that's not what we're supposed to do. Beforehand, you need to sit down with Old Harry and his Nine Men's Morris board. Nine Men's Morris is a real game, popular in medieval England. The game box includes a board, and the manual explains the rules. I was never very good at it, but I thought it was cool when I was a kid and spent hours on it. Kudos to the person who programmed this too, because Harry plays tough, especially on the harder arcade setting. I've looked through the code and I still don't quite understand it. Thankfully, the official hint book has a surefire way to manipulate his AI, which I'm happy to say I did not use for this playthrough, although I did make it a little easier on myself. The reward for winning? a magical amethyst that prevents drunkenness.
That is an exceptionally fine tapestry, Your Grace. But is that a floor I see in the centre?
What floor? I don't see a floor. My trosh. My trough. My...
We relieve the abbot of his purse and head to his room. The only thing of plot importance here is the puzzle box, which is hiding under the pillow. But you can also call for room service.
You've moved the abbot's pillow. The puzzle box is gone. Brothers, send for the sheriff. I've caught a thief.
So there he stood, stolen box in hand, disguised, surrounded by enemies, and he did what?
Pulled the bell rope in the abbot's room.
If, on the other hand, you replace the pillow before the monk arrives, we get a very different conversation.
Your Excellency, where's the abbot? What are you doing in here?
The abbot wanted me to fetch him the puzzle box he was working on, but I can't find it.
He usually keeps it under his... Wait on, you don't look familiar.
Neither do you.
Oh, well, did you pull that rope?
It wasn't me. It must have been the ghost.
The ghost?
Aye. Didn't the abbot tell you about the headless woman who wanders through here every night in search of...
Blessed Mary, I'll never set foot in this room again.
A few other details in this room. The abbot has his Bible open to the Song of Solomon, but you'll probably miss it because for Robin to notice, you have to be right on top of the darn thing. He also has this chest full of women's clothing. In the back of the abbey, there's a hedge maze to explore with a door at the back that leads to a witch's court, where they, burn them. On the way to and from the hedge maze, there's a chapel, and if you stop long enough to admire it, eventually Brother Bruce will come wandering through. Now, if I were coding this game, I'd probably take the simple way and just put this guy on a scripted loop. But no, where he comes from and where he leaves is randomized. So that's pretty cool that they put the effort in. On the other hand, there's some obviously unfinished business here as well. If you show him the puzzle box, he sounds the alarm, and then nothing happens. He just walks away. You can also give him some money, but instead of the normal pop-up where you choose how much, he takes all of it. Yeah, it's gone. Bless you too, buddy. And this is how I learned that if you run out of money, the chest back in your cave magically refills. If you walk in front of the monk, you can block his path, which makes it easier to try the different items and verbs on him. Look at him. Fat and ugly, okay. Talk to him. He shushes us. What if you put your hand on him?
Why, dear brother, I didn't know the flesh enticed you so. Meet me in my cell after midnight, and we shall, pray together.
Okay, I think we're done with the Abbey. Yes, we're going to leave the Abbey right now. Yep. Okay, what were we doing? Oh yeah, the rescue attempt. At the castle, we bribe the guard and bless the widow's sons. Now that we've confirmed where the boys are, we need to get those guards out of the room. To do that, we go back through the hidden passageway and turn left at the fork. But what would lure the guards away?
Will you stop that confounded pacing?
I'm bored.
Sneak us up a bucket of ale from the pub. That'll keep you busy. I've got such a thirst I'd throttle me own mother for a mug right now.
Give me some money then.
Well, if you could pay for it this time.
I knew it. You lost it all to old Harry playing Nine Men's Morris, didn't you?
Oh, come on, Roger. Be a good lad.
I haven't enough.
We only need 4 pennies.
I've got 2 farthings, and that's it.
He won't fill the bucket for less than 4 pennies.
Sorry, that's all I've got.
Hie yourself up the stairs and tell Jack I need a loan. Go on, by Jez, if I don't have an ale before the night is out, you'll never hear the end of it. Wait, I already owe Jack money.
We enter, put the money on the table, and when the guards return, they don't question it.
He wasn't much help, was he? Do you think you'll ever pay back the 2 farthings you just borrowed from me?
He's a miserable little dung-eating ferret. I trow. I'd cut my own father's throat for a mug right now.
I thank heaven that I'm not related to you, Giles.
Roger, you sly old dog.
What?
You left this money on the table when I wasn't looking.
What? I didn't know such a thing.
Have your little jest if you like. Stay here while I fetch the ale.
I'll never taste a drop if you fetch it. We'll both go.
Guess they really were that thirsty. Off to the pub they go. Now, that's what happens if you were paying attention and give them the 4 pennies they need. But if you put less than 4 pennies on the table...
Roger, did you leave this money here?
Not me. If you mean to pretend you just found it.
I did just find it.
It's still not enough.
Well, I've suddenly remembered that I have a couple of pennies in me boot after all.
You lying, miserly hound.
Never mind that. Stay here while I fetch the ale.
I'll never taste a drop if you fetch it. We'll both go.
Either way you do it, we're now in the room. But the boys can't just climb out. So we use the belts from the robes to make a rope, pull them out, and put them in the disguises. If we try to escape through the abbey, the abbot is sobered up and is raging about his missing puzzle box. If you linger too long here, you'll die. But during those few seconds, you can safely interact with the monks as long as you leave very quickly after. I'm pretty sure this is unintended, and it's kind of hard to pull off. I actually died a lot trying to get this footage. That aside, you can't do anything in the abbey. Going out through the pub, we run into a raging party with the Sheriff of Nottingham himself. Having no other choice, we try to exit quietly.
Brother, bless me.
Very well. May God give you all that you deserve, and may I live to see it. Amen.
We bring the boys back to their mother and learn that she used to be a guardian of the forest, a green priestess, the same as Marion. She gives us a magic golden net, the boys become outlaws, and everyone celebrates a rescue well done.
Let's toast him, Ben.
A hood, a Robin Hood.
But what if I told you that you don't have to do any of that? Everything from the moment we put on the robes until the end of the day can be skipped. At a cost. First, go into town. Then, go back to camp, change into your outlaw outfit, and blow your horn. Your men gather and offer suggestions on how to rescue the widow's sons. Tuck wants you to try the sneaky route again, but the others suggest a more direct approach. You have to evaluate the plans and make your decision accordingly. For example,
send inside 5 of your best men with swords, and let them enter the town disguised as peasants, and get close to the gallows. They must strike swiftly and depend upon speed and surprise to protect them. The rest of us, the best archers, will be positioned just outside the gates to clear the way for their retreat.
Okay, that sounds strategic. What else have you got?
Let's all charge in, screaming and yelling like madmen, and shoot as many as we can. They'll think we have a whole army behind us and retreat. Then we'll grab my cousins and run like rabbits before the soldiers figure out there aren't any more of us.
After you pick one of the more direct attacks, you'll be treated to a battle scene. Each of the plans is successful, but you will lose some of your outlaws. Remember that outlaw count at the top? It's separate from your score, and it affects your ending. The more outlaws you have alive at the end, the better. Each plan has a different amount of outlaws that are lost, as well as a different amount of points that is awarded. But wait, it gets more complicated. The first time you call the men, these are the outcomes. But let's say you choose Tuck's advice, which is to go back into town and try again on your own. Give up a second time and call them again. Because it's later in the day, I guess, most of the plans are different, and the number of outlaws that you lose is different as well. For example, Tuck now has an attack plan of his own, and it's Will who encourages you to go back to town yet again. To put a cherry on top of all of it, Alan's plan, both times, is to set a fire and rush in. So, unlike the other plans, you'll see these cute little fires in the courtyard. This all seems unnecessarily complicated, but it could have been even more so. Originally, according to Richard Aronson, the combat sequences were designed to be more like a real-time strategy game. But the SCI game engine wouldn't be able to handle moving 200 man-sized things on the screen at the same time. All this for something many players never ended up seeing because the game constantly nudges you towards the correct adventure gamey solution. And especially because there's a third way. If you go into town and go back to the map screen 3 times, your men grow tired of your incompetence and rescue the boys for you.
Tuck, it's nearly sunset.
Aye, the men became near frantic with worry and didn't know if you'd ever return. They thought the sheriff might have caught you as well, so they've mounted an attack and plan to free the lads from the gallows no matter what the cost.
I must go to them.
Too late now, Robin. I was left to warn you, but, well, we can only wait. Sit with me, and we'll pray.
Because you weren't there, you don't even get to watch the battle scene. Your men are successful, but unfortunately, they picked Much's plan. You lose 7 outlaws and earn no points.
You should berate me, Robin. I led the attack, and we lost many good men.
Because of my foolish plan.
Nay, the failure is mine. Perhaps it's time to choose a new leader.
Don't be a fool. You've proven yourself many a time.
If you stumble on this solution, if you can even call it a solution, you also won't get the celebratory cutscene at the widow's house. So, Will tells you to go to her, and you can, 2 days later.
I must give thanks for the safe return of my sons.
Don't thank me. I did nothing.
Please, such bitterness doesn't become you. Besides, I know full well that you made 3 dangerous trips into Nottingham, seeking a way to save them and spare needless deaths.
If only my self-esteem were as kind as this game. I cannot emphasize enough how complex this day is. 3 different solutions, side quests, an entire 9 Men's Morris game with variable difficulties. This could have been a standalone product. 12 different ways to die, most of which I didn't mention. Other adventure games, at the time, weren't like this. Most point-and-click adventure games now aren't like this. Longbow is special, and it's going to get crazier. With the arrival of Day 6 and the boys safely secure, we turn our thoughts to the other task, retrieving the scroll for Marion. Back at the Overlook, we encounter the black-robed Fens monk.
You block my way, friend.
Aye, so I do.
Since you seem determined to block my way, what is it you want?
I am not a common outlaw. I'm Robin Hood.
I know of you. It would serve my master well to have you dead.
Name your master.
Prince John, he who deserves to rule.
Traitorous dog. Richard is our king.
Not for long. And when Prince John takes the crown, then you and your outlaws will know the true meaning of fear. He'll not rest until he's hunted down every last one of you and set you dancing at the end of a rope.
That day will never come. As for what I want, your robe and whatever you carry upon you.
By the Trinity, I'll give you nothing but the wrap of my staff upon your skull.
Remove your robe and turn over your possessions now, or I will kill you.
You have a longbow and I a staff? You call this an even match? I challenge you to combat with the quarterstaff.
Death to traitors.
Master, we heard the monk issue his challenge and hurried to see you fight him.
I've no time to waste on combat with Prince John's lackeys. Now I mean to take his robe.
However, if you do the honorable thing, you fight the monk in a quarterstaff combat sequence. I think it's cool that they programmed all of these moves into it. If you're like me and struggle, you can always set the arcade slider appropriately.
He fought well.
We now head to the Fens, which is a peat-forming wetland. It's hard to say. We now head to the Fens, which is a peat-forming wetland, like a marsh or a swamp, but different. Inside the monk's robes is a bag of gemstones and a reed, which we blow to summon a boatman. We pretend that we're a new recruit, but before we take off, we can annoy him a bit.
I grow mighty weary of your indecision, brother. I may not answer a third time.
Sorry, brother. I'm ready this time.
Sticorum pro cerebro hebis.
Was that an insult?
Illuditirum desira potes.
The boatman is also kind of a strong, silent type. Trying to engage him in conversation isn't just pointless, it's potentially deadly.
Shh. I must concentrate. Silence. I must find my way by sound and feel. Disturb me again and you'll sleep at the bottom of the fins this day. Ah! Some people never learn.
The game may kill you, but most of the time it's pretty fair about warning you. You can also blow the reed during the boat ride. You get slightly different dialogue, but the same result. At the entrance, the guard takes our reed and bag and then tests our gemstone knowledge.
Now, you must prove your knowledge of the law of the gemstones. This is the way of it. I will pose you 3 riddles. There are 3 stones, which you must choose to answer each riddle. If you are right, you will pass in safety. If you are wrong, commend your soul to God, for you will die here.
Each of the riddles describes supposed properties of the gemstones. The answers to these are in the manual. Yes, it's copy protection, but I like the world building and the illustration looks great. After answering correctly, we enter the castle. We meet the prior, the leader of the monks, in the refectory.
I don't recognize you. Who are you?
I am, Brother Eustace.
This seemingly throwaway line is likely a reference to Eustace the monk. Eustace was a monk from the 1100s who became an outlaw, and whose stories are linked with Robin Hood. Eustace would often use disguises to evade capture, and operated from the forest. He was a feared outlaw, though much less kind than Robin Hood. In one story, Eustace gets revenge against a count who is a lifelong enemy. Eustace captures 5 of his men and cuts off the feet of 4 of them. In another account, Eustace learns magic from the devil himself. He learned 1,000 spells, 1,000 magic tricks, and 1,000 incantations. He could imitate the chimera, the beast which no one can get to know, and he caused monks to fart in the cloister. The romance of Eustace the monk ends thusly. All the barons were captured, and Eustace the monk was killed. He had his head cut off, and at once the battle ended. No one who is always intent on evil can live for a long time. After a bit of subtle verbal sparring, the prior goes off to loosen the tongue of a prisoner. We climb one of the towers in search of Marion's scroll and find it in the wall. So, now we have what we came for, but no way to leave. In search of an exit, we find the prior with a maltreated man, hung by his wrists on a device called a strapado. The prior instructs us to inflict more pain and leaves. Now, don't worry, despite the evil Robin Hood lurking beneath, we can't actually follow the prior's instructions. What we can do is leave, which the game punishes us for. Every time you exit and come back without freeing the poor soul, you lose 50 points. It turns out this is Fulk, the court jester of King Richard. Because of our loyalty to the king, we insist on rescuing Fulk. This may be a reference to Fulk Fitzwarren, another famous historical outlaw. Fulk doesn't trust us and says he won't come unless we retrieve his verses.
They're written upon a ragged bit of scroll wrapped around a wooden cylinder. The prior, may the devil feed him dung for eternity, has taken them. The prior seeks to decode the secrets of my verses, But he must not, or I will have failed the trust my king placed in me. Return my scroll to me, and I'll never doubt you again.
So we climb the other tower again, where the prior is trying to decipher Folk's writings. Now, it's not possible to interact with the prior, except for a little bit of banter if you use the talk icon. If you try to show him items, the game tells us it's best not to distract him. But if we could, there are coded responses.
Have you forgotten your vows? We speak only at a need here. Contemplate the virtues of silence immediately. Watch what you're doing, Brother Eustace. I'm not one of those abbey monks, you know. An amethyst, a most useful stone. I commend you for bringing it to me, Brother Eustace.
Keep in mind that to even try this, you have to win the amethyst from Harry, then give up on rescuing the boys yourself and gather the men for a frontal assault. This inaccessible response is also kind of funny to me, because in regular gameplay, if we put the amethyst in his cup, the prior accuses us of poisoning him. My favorite bit of unreachable dialogue is when you repeatedly give the prior money.
How came you by this money, Brother Eustace?
A donation from a rich merchant I met along the way.
You know the rules of our order. You must turn over all such monies to me that we may use it to better serve our Lord.
I didn't know God had need of money.
I was referring to Prince John, you dolt. Brother Eustace, you were ordered to give me all your money the first time. This is a serious breach of your vows.
I assure you that I overlooked this quite by accident.
This had better be all of it. My patience with you is at an end. More money you've willfully withheld. This time your disobedience may not be overlooked. You will go to the southeast tower and receive 20 lashes.
No man will live that lays a lash to my back.
Demeter, I knew there was something wrong about you. Brothers, he is not one of us. Slay him at once.
Back in the game proper, we spill wine on the prior to make him leave and steal back the scroll. If it were possible to give Folk's scroll to the prior, there's also a coded response for that. Kind of.
No response given by designer.
Instead, we give the scroll to its owner. Folk then shows us a hidden way out of the castle. But freedom is just out of reach. The gate is down, and we're stuck. We can, stupidly, walk back into the castle.
There's the imposter who freed the dwarf. Kill him!
And if we linger for about 3 minutes, we're dead. But that's if you linger on land. If you're in the boat, something much more intriguing happens.
As I suspected, you've trapped yourself. Will you surrender or—
Rot in hell!
You'll be there before me. Vocalis, speak!
Aye, master.
Call death down upon the head of yonder sinner.
It's not immediately clear from the text box placement, but Vocalis is this stone face. All of the stone faces can be spoken to, and each has its own personality with an appropriate Latin name.
Do not bother me. I am thinking about weighty imponderables.
You are as stupid as a sackful of hammers. You have the brains of a bowl of porridge. You are a vast pile of cow manure.
Gosh. What was the question?
When I howl, the rocks listen and the stones obey. Beware of my voice, for it is the voice of death.
If I were not stone, I would leap from here and devour you. You look delicious. Are we having fun here? Do not look upon me. I am utterly deformed. A curse upon the stonecutter who gave me such a face.
What we were supposed to do was to read all of the scrolls in the tower and find out that we need to interact with the faces in a certain order. Back at the shore, Folk gives us the verses and shows us a hidden compartment containing a blue ring. He says that King Richard was gifted 2 magic rings, one that commands the spirits of the water, and one that commands fire, which was stolen by the abbot.
And I charge you, if you ever can deprive that fat, Scabrous Abbot of the Fire Ring, you will be doing your king a noble service.
He also says that his verses contain the key for unlocking the fire ring. Now, before we go on, I want to mention a few other things you can do on day 5 and 6. If you visit the abbey wearing the Fens monk's robes, you get this conversation with the abbot.
What can I do for you, brother?
I bring greetings from the prior. He asks if you've had any further instructions from Prince John.
Shh, we don't speak of such things in the open.
Ah, well, the prior did warn me of your cowardice.
He what?
Brother, he said, don't expect much of the abbot. After all, he is a fat, uglysome, lazy, stupid coward, and entirely corrupt.
Why, why, he? Of all the... No, I never...
Oh, and known to have intimate relations with sheep.
Get out of my sight! Get him out! Out!
You can also visit Nottingham Castle on either day, dressed as the Fens monk, and the game accounts for which day it is. If you haven't rescued the boys, you'll talk to the sheriff and pretend that the prior ordered them to be released into your custody. Not a bad plan, but the sheriff is highly insulted and kicks you out. If you visit the castle on the day after you rescued the boys, Hubert tells you that the sheriff's upset about losing them and isn't in the mood to talk to anyone. Another one of the neat things about Conquests of the Longbow is how you can give away crucial quest items, often with fatal results. If we did the days in reverse order and got the water ring from Folk first, we can give the water ring to Hubert, which causes our death. Or we can give it to the abbot.
A lapis ring set in silver. So you're the knave the prior wants.
Giving that to the abbot was rather like sticking one's head in a lion's mouth and then being surprised when it was bitten off.
The abbot has a lion?
It was an example.
An example of what?
As I was saying, it wasn't a good idea.
If that's what you were saying, why didn't you say so?
Much if you had a brain in your skull, it would perish from the lack of use.
If you try to wager the ring for Nine Men's Morris, Harry recognizes it as King Richard's from his time in the Crusades. He then gets upset and refuses to play with you. This locks you out of winning the amethyst, and so you're forced into one of the other solutions. Speaking of the rings, Folk did give us this clue about how to get the fire ring. It's inside the puzzle box we stole from the abbot, but what's the solution? Well, open up the scroll with Folk's verses and read it. Each line has a tree spelled in its druid form, saying something about itself. The lines refer to a real property of the tree. I'll quote from the hint book. Beth bragged, "Men become drunk upon my sap." Beth is the birch. The sugary sap can be extracted and fermented to make an alcoholic beverage known as birch beer. Chariots wage war with me, said Tin. Tin is holly. The Celts used holly wood to make the shafts for their war chariots, and so on. But that's just a little bit of trivia. The verses are an acrostic riddle. To solve it, take the first letter of each tree name in order. That's the solution. Open the box and get the fire ring. But there's something else we can do. Something I guarantee almost nobody tried and you probably haven't seen. The solution is randomized, but it's set at the beginning of your playthrough, not when you get Folk's scroll. So let's say you do all the Abbey stuff first, grab the puzzle box, then save your game. Play through until you get the password, and then restore. Or brute force it, the list of possible solutions isn't very long. In either case, you can have the fire ring in the Fens Monastery. You're not supposed to be able to do this, because you're not supposed to know the puzzle box solution yet. And when you have the fire ring early, weird things happen. If you try to give the fire ring to the boatman monk on the shore, or when he's rowing, he'll tell you,
"Our vows require us to give up all earthly possessions. You must give this ring to the prior."
But if you hand it over at the entrance, Robin gets back in the boat and the monk whacks him into the fens. The other monk says, complete with punctuation error,
"Quick thinking, brother. No thief can escape from us."
Wearing the ring on this screen or showing it to the monk at the entrance will also get you killed, Though now it's the entrance monk who kills you, and he says something different. If you wear the ring in any room inside the monastery, this guy comes out of the shadows, and it's game over.
That ring! You're the thief the abbot wants.
Was he just following us the whole time? Like, how does he see the ring from way over here? If you try giving the ring to Folk, the monk magically pops up and says something slightly different.
Brother Eustace, the prior sent me to that ring, so you're the thief.
Bizarrely, the campfire death discussion is the same one you get if the Fens monk defeats Robin in the quarterstaff battle, so that doesn't make any sense. Putting the ring on in the boat room skips the wait time for the deaths in here, so it's a fast way to get the Vocalis death. When Folk tells you about the fire ring after his rescue, Robin will explain that he already found it. Also, the conversation is wired up wrong. Robin ends up saying one of Folk's lines, and part of the dialogue ends a line early.
Then rest easy, my friend, for I have your rings made in my possession already.
Most wondrous outlaw! I believe you must be a magician yourself. Keep them safe, as I've bidden you. But one warning. Fire and water do not mix. You may only wear one ring at a time.
Ah, and I will keep my verses. That is, unless you...
Farewell, then. I'm off to find Queen Eleanor and serve her until my master, bless him, is returned to us.
Clearly, at some point, the developers accounted for us having the fire ring here. Then something changed, and what we have left are the buggy vestiges of what could have been. I'm not complaining, though. Days 5 and 6 are really complicated, the most complicated in the game, and I'm honestly surprised they kept as much variation as they did. Now, where were we? The next day, we return to the Willow Grove. We give Marion her scroll.
I wish you wouldn't leave like that, when we've so much yet to discuss.
Forgive me. Perhaps it's the distraction of your beauty. I cannot think straight.
Don't lay the blame for your muddled thinking upon me, Robin Hood. You rogue.
I said we give Marion her scroll.
By the Blessed Lady, Robin, if you leave here one more time...
I give you my solemn oath not to step from your circle until you release me. I'd rather stand here for eternity than see you frown at me.
As you wish, but I am the one who waits upon you.
We give Marion her scroll, the one she said was vital to her plans.
You are so clever. Now, I have a gift of great importance to bestow upon you.
A kiss?
Robin, cease being a rogue but for a moment and watch closely. Your life and all our plans will depend upon knowing what I will now show you.
Marion reveals a druid hand code, a way of spelling words by pointing to various parts of the hand. If that went too fast, it's also drawn in the manual. As for the scroll itself, Marion tells us to give it to the Queen's spy.
The Queen has a lady who will teach the hand code to her most trusted knight. It will be that Queen's knight who will receive whatever ransom you have when the time comes.
And this Queen's spy?
Soon the Saturday fair begins in Nottingham. The Queen's spy will come disguised as a scholar. Amidst the numerous merchants and vendors from all parts of England, he can mingle more safely. He'll carry a book containing royal coats of arms.
Now how am I to find this Queen's spy? There could be more than one scholar.
Aye, and he'll be testing you as well. When you speak with him, you must ask him to show you the coat of arms of the East Saxons.
There's one more task she gives us.
Now that you know the hand code, you must seek out the Green Man who dwells in the ancient oak. The sheriff has been raising a force of men and threatens to scour the forest clean of outlaws. If you can gain the Green Man's protection, it could save your life.
Finally, if we show Marion the half-heart emerald and remind her of our love, we share an intimate moment. Unfortunately, if you didn't show her the emerald on your first meeting, you're locked out of this scene. So, the Green Man who dwells in the ancient oak. Marion's talking about this place, which looks to be based on the major oak in the real-life Sherwood Forest. But talking to it doesn't do anything. So, what to do? From the very beginning of the game, if you wait long enough on one of the forest screens, a pixie will run across. We need to use the Widow's golden net to catch it. This is harder than it looks if you're new to the game. The little thing flips around and comes from random directions. But if you miss it, just wait a little bit and it'll show up again.
At last! Pixie, grant my wish. I wish...
No wish. Pixie no wish.
What do you mean you can't grant wishes?
Pixie no power. Green man big power. Green man sleep oak dream magic all forest. Say go. Pixie take green man. Green man all wishes. Say go.
Very well. Go.
All good. Follow. Old man oak. Father tree. Green man, come and see.
I heard my wood child call. So, fleshling, you seek me. I am here.
The pixie said you grant all wishes.
They are acorn imps, foolish and rootless. Wishes are the dream stuff of fleshling. Mine is the power to grant you the protection of the druid trees. But my protection is not easily earned. My riddles are perilous. Those who fail my test join the forest and are never more clothed in flesh. Dwell upon that before you speak again.
After a few seconds, the green man sinks back into his tree, and we just have to talk to the tree again to get him to come back out. However, there's dialogue here that most people miss. These few seconds before the green man disappears into the tree are your only opportunity to show him items from your inventory. I like the ones where you show him the rings.
Ah, this ring has sweet magic. Water is life and renewal. Keep it away. I care not for its magic. Fire is no friend of mine. Rootless fleshling vermin, how dare you treat me like some common tree? Sink deep roots, drink of sun and rain, and never be a man again.
Since nothing else works, we have no choice but to answer his riddles. He turns us into a half tree, and we need to give our answers using the hand code. If we fail 3 times, we become an oak forever, but if we answer correctly, we earn the protection of the druid trees.
I have laid a spell upon your form and the clothings of your flesh. In this form alone will the trees know you. When danger is upon you, seek out the heart of a grove of druid trees. Spell out the secret name of the druid trees, and they will hide you until the danger is past. I weary of this man speech. Farewell.
So, as far as variation on this day, we've got the optional romance scene. I think many people end up showing Marion the emerald on their first Willow Grove encounter. For a Sierra game, your inventory is relatively sparse, so showing her everything in your pockets isn't a huge chore. Still, it's easy enough to miss it. If I have one criticism, it's that Marion's plan is a bit confusing if you're hearing it for the first time. Robin's going to raise ransom money through whatever means possible, but primarily through stealing the stolen treasure. Once he steals it, he needs to give it to the Queen's Knight, who will give it to the Queen, who will get it to King Richard's captors. We also need to give the hand scroll not to the Queen's Knight, but to the Queen's spy who will be at the fair. He'll be disguised as a scholar, and for him to confirm our identity, we have to ask him to show us the correct coat of arms. Why do we have to do this? Marion doesn't explain exactly, but she asks, and we obey. More on this later. The next day is the Nottingham Fair. We need to find a safe way to get there and meet the Queen's spy. So, We head to the Watling Street Overlook again. We soon meet a yeoman who intends to compete in the archery tournament. This guy knows his way around a bow, so playing the evil Robin this time isn't a great idea. Instead, we offer him a handsome sum of money for his clothes. We then head to the fair, and oh man, is this place crazy. Almost everywhere you look, and everyone that you talk to, is a reference or Easter egg of some kind. We've got Corey and Lori Cole, the creators of Quest for Glory.
Reminds me of Spielberg.
On a bad day. Reminds me of the alleys of Shapir, only, well, earthier.
Where are the dancing women? That's what I want to know.
Mark Hood, a Sierra programmer, is buying rugs from a Mr. Oakhurst. Oakhurst was the town in California where Sierra was located. He mentions Daventry and Lytton from King's Quest and Police Quest. We have Richard, Aaron's son, a reference to lead programmer Richard Aronson. George Bush and Dan Quayle are here, and that's just the first screen. The two guys from Andromeda, creators of Space Quest, are also here. Scott Murphy tries to convince Mark Crow to make a Space Quest game set in Conquests of the Longbow. Funnily enough, the Space Quest 1 VGA remake has an Easter egg where Roger crash lands at the foot of Nottingham Castle. You can also find Christy Marks, the game's designer.
Congratulations! You've found me. I suppose you'll want to be rewarded. Here, I'll give you some points. Oops, got a little carried away there. Excuse me while I fix it. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Let me give it one more try. I think I'd better leave well enough alone.
Marion is walking through the fair, and you can talk to her. You can also buy gifts for Marion and give money to beggars for points. Regardless, you have to wait for Marion to walk all the way across the fair until 3 scholars show up and start walking the grounds. Remember how Marion told you which coat of arms to identify? This is randomized on each playthrough, and the pictures of each can be found in the manual. Yes, more copy protection. If you ask this scholar, he thinks you're actually interested in the real coats of arms, so he's not the real one. If you ask this one, some of the sheriff's men eyeball you. If you talk to him 3 times, or talk to him twice and keep saying nay, they'll arrest you. The correct scholar is always this one, so when he shows you the correct coat of arms, say aye, and give him the scroll. As you might imagine, you can screw this up too.
You are not as knowledgeable as you think. Has your knowledge increased? We shall see.
If you answer incorrectly and don't show him the scroll when he asks for it, the game gives you half as many points when you finally do it right.
Hurry, my friend. We're not safe here. What dangerous game do you play? Give me what you bought for me, quickly. You are either an overly cautious man or a demented one.
Again, the game punishes you for indecision. If you do it correctly, he's a bit nicer.
Excellent. I thank you, yeoman.
Either way, he offers some money, which you can refuse, but there's no downside in taking the coin. With that out of the way, we pay the entry fee to the archery tournament. Our opponents are Clem of the Clough, William of Cloudsley, and Adam Bell, all of whom were legendary English outlaws. Robin has chosen the name Puck of Barnesdale, which has historical significance of its own. In the earliest ballads, Robin Hood makes his home in the Barnesdale Forest, not Sherwood. Puck, of folklore, is also known as Robin Goodfellow. So Robin Hood naming himself Puck of Barnesdale is like wearing a sign that says, "Hey, I'm Robin Hood, stupid." Adam Bell gets a perfect bullseye, and just like in the legend, we split his arrow. Or not. Depending on the arcade setting, this might be very difficult, or you might have really bad aim. You can also get kicked out of the tournament early. If you walk away after paying the fee, or if you, get this, make 31 screen transitions after talking to the scholar, you can't get back in. That second one is sort of simulating if you were just goofing around and the tournament started without you. On the other side of the spectrum, you can set the arcade difficulty all the way down and win automatically. but with no points added to your score. If you win, the sheriff offers a place in his service, but obviously we turn that down. You collect a golden arrow as your prize. The golden arrow adds 10,000 marks to King Richard's ransom fund. At the nightly campfire, Robin worries if the treasure train will ever come, and thinks about other ways of raising money. John suggests looking at the sheriff's coffers. On the morning of day 9, Will warns us of a stillness in the forest that disturbs him, and he suspects danger. Before we can move on to the sheriff, we have to go into the forest, trigger a chase sequence with the sheriff's men, and escape. Otherwise, you might think to try the disguises, and the game accounts for that. Each outfit generates a unique set of dialogue, but the outcome is always the same. So, to escape them, we need to use the Green Man's protection. Throughout the forest, there are tree groves that will give you a picture if you look at them. What you're supposed to do is match that with the druid name of the tree and then spell it out with the hand code. When we do, we turn into a tree long enough for the bad guys to walk by. With that done, we can get back to raising more ransom. The aim of the day is to trick the Sheriff of Nottingham out of a substantial amount of coin. One way to get the sheriff's money is to wear the archer's disguise from the day before and head to Nottingham Castle. We have to bribe our way inside. We then speak to the sheriff and claim to have befriended Robin Hood. If we won the archery tournament on the previous day, then we claim that we befriended Robin Hood by giving him the golden arrow. If not, we claim that Robin was impressed by our skill with a bow. Either way, we'll happily betray Robin Hood to the sheriff, for a small fee, of course.
'Twas a stinking, cowardly outlaw trick!
Have a care with your words, or I'll rap some manners into you.
What difference does it make? You'll murder me sooner as later.
Not so. I give you my solemn oath you will depart this forest as whole as you entered it.
Robin and his men have a banquet in the sheriff's honor, and on his coin.
You said I'd be sent back as whole as I entered, you dog!
What? Are you not as whole as when you entered this life? Include the same besides.
At the end of the day, our purse is 700 marks heavier, and the sheriff leaves appropriately humiliated. But the better solution that gets you more points and coin is this. Go to the Overlook and wait for a traveling jeweler. We find out that he was going to swindle the sheriff's wife with some false jewels. For his clothes and the fake jewels, we can pay him.
From me you'll have a fat purse worth more than your false jewels, and a new suit of Lincoln Green. I'll save you the risk of facing the sheriff.
Fair enough trade, I suppose. Though I'll miss the challenge of the bilking.
Or
I'll have your clothes and all you possess. Now!
Shrivel your soul, outlaw. I'll curse you from here to London.
Be grateful I let you live with that viperous tongue of yours.
Someday you'll hang, Robin Hood, and I'll rejoice at the foot of the gallows.
Either way, we get his outfit, the fake gemstones, and some jeweler's rouge.
I am an expert, you know, and I can see that these are jewels of the purest order. John, I simply must have them.
We then spin an elaborate tale about a dragon's cave full of riches.
Jewels heaped as high as man's chest. Rubies, emeralds, diamonds, opals, pearls, topaz, turquoise. What I would give to be free of the burden of wandering from town to town trying to sell them all, never knowing when I might be robbed.
Oh, you poor man. Are there sapphires?
Uncountable numbers of them.
The sheriff brings 5,000 marks in exchange for the cave's location. The rest of the day plays out the same. Now, that variation between the two paths would be interesting enough on its own, but there's more. If we win the archery tournament, and we wear the jeweler's clothes, the sheriff's wife recognizes our face because we had gotten close enough to her the previous day. To solve this, we have to use the jeweler's rouge to color our beard beforehand. But if we didn't win the tournament, the game accounts for this, and there's no need for the rouge. You can just keep your beard blonde the whole time. And it gets even better, because if we go to the front of the castle without coloring our beard, then leave, color it, and come back, the guard remembers.
You there, stand fast. I mean to know why your beard has changed color.
Oh, that. A trick of the light. Happens all the time.
Giles, Roger, seize this man. We'll find out soon enough what the trick is.
I rue the rouge that robbed us of Robin, betrayed by the beard he'd bandied about in.
Other people around town also have unique reactions if they notice the color change.
Oh, it's you again. Wait on, your beard's changed color.
Why, no. It's exactly the same as it was.
Madonna? That's the last time I drink Scrumpy cider for breakfast.
And there's even more unique dialogue if you do it the other way around. Red first, and then blonde. To do this, you have to do something almost no one would think of. Put on the rouge, walk around, go back to the cave, take off the disguise, and then put it back on. The pub keeper's dialogue is slightly different, as well as the dialogue at the castle. You don't get away with it this time either.
You again? Say, what happened to your beard?
My beard?
Don't play the fool with me, your beard was red before.
That. It was just dirty. I've washed it.
Makes you look familiar somehow. Roger, Giles, bring this man inside for questioning.
To top it all off, if you don't care about any of this, you can just leave.
I didn't give you permission to leave. How dare you turn your back on me?
I do as I please.
Toss this rude popinjay out and see that he doesn't return.
I could scarcely wait for this wasted day to end, so that night could herald the arrival of my lady.
So I just think about all these branching details and marvel at this point-and-click adventure game from 1991. This is why, to me, Conquests of the Longbow is the best Robin Hood game. At night, Marion joins us at the campfire. She tells us about the sheriff's triumphant return to town, where he sought to clothe himself in curses, so loudly did he rail against us. She also tells us about the Queen's Knight, the one who will take any ransom money we have and give it to the Queen.
After the abbot's treasure train has been seized, the Queen's Knight will meet you on Watling Street to receive whatever ransom you have to give him. But he'll deal only with the man who can spell out the password using the hand code I've given you.
Marion will learn the password later, and we are to meet her tomorrow in the Willow Grove to learn it ourselves. Finally, if we didn't steal the abbot's puzzle box earlier in the game, Marion steals it for us and gives it to us now. I love this. The game lets you screw up over and over again, and instead of killing you or putting you in a dead man walking situation like so many other Sierra games did, you can keep going. You just have to live with being a really sucky Robin Hood. And speaking of opportunities to screw up, Day 10 opens with John bringing grievous news.
The abbot has charged Marion with witchcraft. He'll burn her in the witch's court of the abbey today.
So, we use our horn, gather our men, and choose a plan. The one that will get us the most points is John's. Robin will enter the court secretly so he can rescue Marion, while the rest of the men lead a two-part attack through the town. It would have been great to have a disguise, but for plot reasons, Friar Tuck gave away all of our outfits to the poor last night. To be fair, Robin agreed with him.
I doubt I could show my face in town in any of those disguises again.
Anyway, we need to find a way to sneak into the witch's court, like, that door at the back of the hedge maze. But we can't just walk into the front of the abbey. If we talk to the pub owner a few times, we'll eventually tell him we're there to rescue Marion. He'll then let us go through the secret tunnels. You can also bribe your way in, though that takes a lot of coin. 40 farthings or 10 pennies. You could, also, threaten him with your bow. He says we'll regret it, and that he'll teach us what it means to make an enemy of him. There are no actual consequences of this, aside from the loss of points. But at some point in the design phase, this led to Robin's death. Here's some unused dialogue from the death scripts.
Well, he certainly botched that one up.
Aye. He infuriated the innkeeper, who sent a warning to the sheriff.
The abbot was quick to guess the secret way that Robin would take through the abbey.
Alas, we've lost both Robin and Marion. Such a sad day.
Had it been me, I would have found a better way to deal with that innkeeper.
Aye, you would have threatened to drink his pub dry.
This is hardly the time for jest. Ah well, time to select a new leader.
No matter how you do it, you get to the abbey through the secret tunnels. Once you get to the hedge maze, you have to be reasonably quick to get to the witch's court, because there is a time limit. If you wander too long, it's game over, and to add insult to injury, the game also takes away 500 points from your score. Alternately, if you don't want to do that, or can't figure it out, you can pick a different plan, like this one, from Much.
Let's attack the soldiers and taunt them, and then pretend to run away in all directions. The soldiers will split up and run all over town after us. Then you, Robin, with maybe 5 men, can go after Marion while we keep the soldiers busy running after us.
Like the rescue plans for the Widow's Sons, each of these plans gives you varying point values and will lose you different amounts of outlaws. The game will also, again, punish you for indecision. If you go in and out of the pub twice, then return to camp, you'll get half the amount of points you normally would. In any case, let's rescue Marion. Let's restore our game, put on the fire ring, and rescue Marion. She's safe, but still gravely injured from the smoke. We take her to the Willow Grove and use the healing power of the Heartstone. Or maybe not. See, this is just amazing to me. I can understand failing to romance Marion, that's reasonable. But in this game, a Robin Hood game, Marion can die. And not like she did a minute ago. No, I mean, you can wait here. She'll die, and you can still finish the game.
I was too slow. She's dead. Dead.
But maybe you won't even have a choice. Because remember, you can give stuff away in this game. Things like the Half-Heart Emerald. For example, you can give the Half-Heart Emerald to the beggar for his clothes.
Sir, I can hardly think. You've made me a rich man.
You can give the emerald to the jeweler in exchange for his clothes. Even Will knows this is a bad idea. But at least those two are somewhat explainable as acts of charity, and you do get something out of the deal. But for no reason whatsoever, you could also give it to the abbot.
This is an exquisite piece of emerald and unusually shaped. A generous gift, brother, but it looks incomplete. Where's the other half of it?
I couldn't say.
Well, if you should come into possession of it, let me know. I'll just tuck this away into my purse.
When he passes out drunk, though, you can take it back from him. The game prevents you from showing anything to the prior, but if you could, there is a coded response for giving him the emerald, too.
This emerald has been cut by a master. How did you come by it?
It was a gift from a woman of power.
Well, Prince John will find a good use for it.
However, you can give the emerald to the prior indirectly by giving it to one of the 2 monks in the refectory. If you're playing version 1.0, just don't give it to this monk, or he'll run into his buddy and get stuck forever. They fixed this in 1.1 by changing the monk's position. So, you could be sitting here with nothing to do but let her die. However, assuming we did what Robin Hood would actually do, Marion is healed and quickly gives you the password for the Queen's Knight. Better write this down because it's another one of those randomized things and we won't get another chance to learn it. Robin then carries Marion to the widow's cottage for her to rest and recover. Long, weary days creep past. as Robin now waits for the treasure train, until Tuck arrives in camp, breathless, and tells us that the treasure train has arrived. Once again, we blow our horn and hatch a plan. The outcome gets a little complicated, actually. The success of most of the plans depends on how many outlaws you have. It's kind of like the more men you have, the easier it is to overwhelm your opponent. John's plan only succeeds if you have 26 outlaws, Will's plan 25, and Alan's plan 28. Tuck's plan is the best one, a surprise ambush from two sides. This plan always succeeds regardless of the number of outlaws. In the first release of the game, version 1.0, the plans of John, Will, and Alan will also always succeed, though you do lose some outlaws. To make it even more complicated, the number of outlaws you lose also depends on how many outlaws you already have. The more outlaws going in, the fewer you lose. For example, Tuck's plan will cost you somewhere between 7 and 0 outlaws. And, of course, there just had to be version differences too. I'd like to thank AT Machine for providing a document detailing all these possibilities. After picking a plan, we get a long battle scene until eventually Robin and his men emerge victorious with 50,000 marks in gold and silver.
A finer day's work we've never done. When the Queen's Knight arrives, we'll have a magnificent gift for his sovereign lady.
Unless you pick Much's plan.
Let's round up some wild boars and drive them into the road. The horses and mules will panic, the boars will gore some of the soldiers, and then we can move in and take over.
Well, that's that. They've gotten past us.
The boars don't even get close to Watling Street, and we lose one outlaw because he got gored. The treasure is lost. Thanks, Much. But at least that's amusing. There's an even more morose and obscure outcome. Here's how you trigger it. First, go to the Overlook and meet Will. He tells us the treasure train will arrive before the day is out and that we better have a plan. Then, make 20 screen transitions. I'm wandering around the woods here, but any will do. Then, either return to the Overlook or walk down to Watling Street.
I've been searching everywhere for you. We must get to the Overlook at once. The train's almost upon us. They'll see us if we stay here another minute.
I barely had time to gather the men for an assault, but I had no time for planning. The result was bloody and disastrous.
Robin attacks without plan or thought. We lose 7 outlaws, receive no points, and the treasure train gets away.
We've lost.
And worst of all, we can't blame Much for it. Let's head back to the happier reality, where Marion is alive and our ransom is plentiful. On the morning of day 12, Little John warns us that the sheriff's men are back in the forest. We go through the exact same sequence as before, spelling out the name of a tree to hide. Once that's over, we can move on to our rendezvous with the Queen's Knight. We were supposed to meet the Queen's Knight on Watling Street, so we head there, and our men have intercepted him already. Curiously, he orders us to send our men away. We're supposed to tell him the password we learned from Marion, but before that, we can give stuff to him, like the magic rings, or the amethyst if somehow you held on to it all this time, or even the half-heart emerald. Though at this point, you technically don't need it anymore, so I guess it doesn't matter as much.
Trying to bribe me, outlaw? For what? A pardon from the Queen?
It's a gift for the Queen. I ask nothing in return.
Oh, but of course. I'll see she gets it.
We use the hand code to spell out the password that Marion gave us. Wait, what if Marion's dead? How are we supposed to know the password? In that case, beforehand, we head to the Willow Grove and spell out the druid name for Willow. Through the trees, Marion's spirit conveys one last message. Hopefully, though, in your playthrough, Marion is still alive. But after you give the knight the password...
What were you doing with your hand?
Perhaps you didn't watch closely enough the first time. Shall I do it again?
If you have business with me, get on with it.
Do it again, and the knight still doesn't understand.
What's the meaning of that? Answer me!
Then you cannot be the true Queen's Knight. What have you done with him?
If you know what you're doing, you can actually shoot him at the very beginning of the conversation without doing all the hand code stuff, which I think is funnier.
Every instinct I had told me this knight was no Queen's man, but now I must prove that I was right.
If we search the false knight, we'll get back everything we foolishly gave away. We also find a letter from the prior to the sheriff, vaguely stating that the prior has captured the real knight. If you want full points, there's something else obscure here you have to do. Blow the horn, and John will come. We get points by showing him the letter.
I can't read, as you know. What's it say?
Well, but then wait, I mean, why do we get points if he can't okay. Robin confirms that, yes, the Queen's Knight is most likely being held in the Fens Monastery. If you didn't search the false knight's body and left the scene early, you'll get everything back at the nightly campfire. That's because your men buried his body and found everything themselves. Wait, John's reading the letter? Can this guy read or not? Make up your mind, game. And while we're at it, can we go back to this hand code stuff? The plan was, Robin gives the password to prove his identity. Okay, and for extra security, he uses the hand code. But the Queen's Knight didn't know the hand code before, which is why Robin delivered the hand scroll to him via the Queen's spy. But if neither party knows the code, and they both need to learn the code anyway, why not make up a new code instead of stealing a scroll guarded by people who want to kill you? Now, the Green Man Druid stuff, okay, I can live with the ancient magic needing to be something established, but for this, there had to be an easier way. Because to deliver the hand scroll, Robin had to sneak into a fair, also with people who want to kill him, and give it to yet another person with yet another convoluted password system. The next day, we need to rescue the real Queen's Knight from the Fens Monastery. We can blow our horn, but our men explain that they can't help us. So, we travel back to the Fens. Now, even if we had the reed, it would be a stupid idea to blow it and alert the monks to our presence. Okay, yeah, you can do that. And if you go back down, your adventure is predictably cut short. The alarm stays on for a long time, too. I've never actually figured out how long it takes. Anyway, there's one ring we haven't used yet. Slip on the water ring, and some pretty lights appear. These are will-o'-the-wisps, the spirits of those who have drowned in the Fens.
We are called by the ring that commands water.
How may
we
serve you? Do you wish
to cross the water?
I seek a missing knight and suspect these monks of treachery. Can you help me?
Wait, we will
bring you a boat.
Bring you a boat.
Follow us and we will guide you through the fog.
Through the fog.
To the place you seek.
We get in and follow them. On the next screen, we wait and see which direction they go. If we get antsy and pick the wrong direction...
Brothers, it's an outlaw. Kill him. Kill him.
But if you follow the wisps correctly, you'll wind up at the base of this tower. You can continue on or ask the wisps to take you back to shore. This is a little odd because at this point, you have everything you need to complete the game. If you had let Marion die, and you haven't gotten the password from the Willows yet, the wisps don't even let you cross to begin with, so it's not like it's a failsafe for that. The only reason to go back is if you wanted to see a few of the game's Easter eggs one last time. Did I mention there are Easter eggs in this game? If the sight of a pixie fills you with rage, you can shoot the poor thing. Pick up the bag, and Robin turns tiny. As long as we're not wearing the Fens monk outfit, there's a 1 in 11 chance for Nessie to appear along the fen's shore. The hitbox is pretty small, but if you click the hand icon right about here on the castle battlements, a cow will fly out. The cow's name is Alice. There are 2 different versions of her in the assets, and for some reason they went with the pink version, maybe to contrast more with the sky. Using the half-heart emerald on the middle of the Abbey tapestry triggers this conversation.
Look, it's Camelot.
Oh, let's not go there. It's such a silly place.
Well, it's only a model. Who said that? You're not even in this tapestry.
If you look through the Abbey rooms, you'll find a monk counting the number of angels dancing on the head of a pin. Go look that one up. And you can also find Leisure Suit Larry and Passionate Patty, characters from another Sierra game series. These always show up, though the exact rooms are randomized. There's also a 3rd Easter egg that only appears every 3 out of 8 times you enter this overhead map screen. Perhaps this one is less likely because it's a little more risque than the others. On day 9, there's a 1 in 9 chance of getting this Easter egg if you visit the Cobbler's Street and you're not wearing the yeoman's outfit. A literal bug in the game. Every time you blow your horn and you're not on Watling Street, there's a 1 in 51 chance of blowing a bubble. If you row the wrong way in the fens, there's a 1 in 10 chance of the monks using a different projectile. Speaking of animals, did I tell you that you can talk to them?
Are you going to feed me?
Well, who needs you then? Bugger off!
You know what I like about Robin Hood? I hear he robs from the rich and gives to the poor.
Some called me lamb, some called me mutton. Now I'm generally good for nothing.
Once I was a happy fish. The sea was my home. Now I'm just an excuse for a stupid poem.
Horse, do you speak? I thought not.
It's about time someone asked my opinion around here. First off, this business with the wool. I mean, just as I've grown it all back. Whoosh! Off it gets shaved again.
Okay, enough of that. So, back at the tower, day 13, trying to rescue the Queen's Knight. We can't climb the ivy because it's too flimsy, but we can strengthen it by spelling its druid name. And after climbing up, we find an opening and 2 guards. It's pretty obvious what we have to do now.
Excuse me, could you lend me a hand? You see, I'm nearly safe, but I thought I'd do something truly foolish instead and get myself killed.
Brother, quickly! Bring some rocks. There's an intruder below.
Inside the tower is the Queen's Knight, who won't join us until we've proven that we're a friend. Oh, hey, that letter with the proof of the treason, that might be useful.
Read it, my lord. I took it from the body of the knight whom I thought was you.
I cannot read. This message could say anything. I'll keep it all the same, but it won't cause me to trust you. I cannot read. I cannot read. I cannot read.
So, we spell the password. You did remember it, right? And he agrees to join us. If the arcade slider is down, we make a quick exit. But if not, the game asks you if you want to save. And anytime a game asks you if you want to save, especially a Sierra game, you do it. We have to dodge the falling rocks either with the mouse or the keyboard arrows. There's no pattern to it as far as I can tell, so you're probably gonna die a lot here, especially on the upper parts. But eventually, we'll make it to the boat, and that's the end of the game. But don't go yet, because everything that we've done comes back to us in the ending, or endings to be more precise. First, the Queen's Knight takes our ransom. If we capture the treasure train, there are 2 mules here to haul the extra gold and silver. Now the treasure must reach the Queen, so she can send the ransom to King Leopold in Austria, and King Richard can be freed. we wait through the long and dreary months of winter, with absolutely nothing to occupy our time. These rain effects are really neat. In the spring, Robin's luck runs out. Everyone is captured and taken immediately to the gallows. But just as we're about to hang, King Richard comes riding in. He demands a proper trial, and we earn our ending. All the key players come back to testify either for or against you.
He waylaid me upon Watling Street, stripped me of my robe, mocked my dignity, and that false friar beat me with a sword and forced me to toil at chopping wood for his gang of ruffians.
And a poor job he did of it, too. Fattened as he is with gluttony and an excess of wine and ale, and lazy from a life of unmonkly comfort.
Friar Tuck obviously testifies in our favor, and the prior, abbot, and sheriff spin all sorts of lies, like having no idea where King Richard's rings are. That darn letter that no one could read counts in our favor, though the prior calls it a forgery. The peasant woman and the poacher testify for you, if they survived. The beggar and the jeweler relate their experiences. If you used the bow to threaten them, you might be regretting that choice now.
He was not good to me. He robbed me of every shred of rag I had and cared not for my discomfort. Why, I nearly starved before I could regain a decent set of rags and return to my profession as a beggar.
The yeoman testifies on your behalf as well. And finally, Marion speaks.
Thank you, my lord. I have come to know Robin Hood well, and I also owe him my life.
Pay no heed to this slut, my liege. She's a witch who keeps company with brigands and—
Silence. The Lady Marion has served my queen mother for years and is of noble blood. I'll not tolerate such accusations against her. Speak on, lady.
Robin is completely loyal to you. He is honest, fair, and true, undeserving of the fate that has driven him to live outside the law. He seeks only peace.
I've let you live. That's good enough.
And justice.
Death to traitors.
He devoted himself to raising ransom on your behalf.
Well, that's that. They've gotten past us.
Even as these other wicked men conspired against you. Don't listen to their lies. Robin and his men are your truest subjects. I beg you to grant them your pardon and your favor.
Very well. The witnessing is complete. Clear the floor and I shall pronounce judgment.
And what happens next? Well, that depends. There are 4 different endings you can achieve in this game, and it's a lot more complicated than you might think. Credit goes to speedrunner Deathwing for figuring it all out. For some parts of this next section, I'm going to quote directly from his write-up. There are 2 factors that determine your ending: the amount of ransom that you raise, and an internal reputation score. That's not this score over here. That's something completely different, more like a completion score, and it has nothing to do with your ending. Your reputation score is calculated as follows. If you save Marion, you get 2,000 points. You get 500 points each for saving the peasant and the poacher, and if you don't save them, you lose 500 points each. For the beggar and the jeweler, if you deal with them wisely, it's another 500 points. And if you threaten them with the bow, you lose 500. Finally, you get an outlaw bonus. For each outlaw over 9, you get 30 points. We think this 9 is because of Robin plus the main merry men plus the 3 boys. Since it's not possible to lose any of them, you don't get credit for having them, I guess? Maybe. And for having the letter that no one could read, you get nothing. Yeah, it's actually worthless. So, let's start with the second to worst ending, the pardon. You get this if you raise at least 5,000 marks for the ransom, which any of the ransom sources on their own will do, except for Puck because that only gets you 1,000 total marks. In that case, you need to have 4,000 reputation to earn the pardon ending.
Robin Hood, I find you innocent of all charges brought against you. Furthermore, I declare you a free man with no mark of outlaw against you.
Your Majesty, I thank you. But my men.
If I free the master, I must free his devoted friends. They are granted full pardons.
Bless you, my liege.
And prior, Most evil cur, you are exiled from my kingdom and your order disbanded for all time. The sheriff is instructed to slay you on the spot if you are not gone from my shores within the week.
You and your men are pardoned, but no other rewards are bestowed. To get the next best ending, the Forester, you need to meet these two criteria. First, have a reputation score of at least 3,680. This means you need to save Marion and have a decent combination of doing nice things and having outlaws still alive. Second, either reach 51,000 ransom by capturing the train and fooling the sheriff as Puck, or if you fail the train, reach 15,300, which is the arrow plus the jeweler. Basically, do a pretty decent job of being nice to people and raising at least some ransom. Your ending is the same as the pardon ending, plus...
I could use good men such as you in my service. Would you consent to becoming a royal forester?
I'm pleased to serve you however I may, my liege.
Any of your men who wish to serve as foresters will find positions open for them. As for you, Sheriff and Abbot, you will pay fines of 50,000 marks each for taking Prince John's side against me. And Prior, most evil cur, you are exiled from my kingdom and your order disbanded for all time. The sheriff is instructed to slay you on the spot if you are not gone from my shores within the week.
My lord, there is one thing more I would humbly beg of you.
And what is that?
The hand of the Lady Marion.
Nay, she is a noble lady, and you are only a yeoman. I cannot grant this request.
So, Robin still does not secure Lady Marion's hand in marriage. But before we get to that, let's go back down here. The worst ending.
I have heard the testimony of all who speak for and against you, but I miss most bitterly the voice of Marion. She was last seen in your arms, Robin Hood, and has not been seen upon the face of the earth since then.
She died, my lord, but not by my hand. It was the abbot's fire that killed her.
I have no proof of this, and she was dear to the queen. As for the pittance you sent toward my ransom, it will buy a pardon for your men, but nothing more. I find you guilty of the charges. You shall hang tomorrow.
If you raise exactly 1,000 marks by only doing the Puck side quest, your reputation score must be at least 4,000 or you die. Or, if you raise no money, you die, no matter how well you treated everyone. And the game mocks you.
Truly a sad and pathetic performance, but I know you are capable of doing far, far better. I shall look forward to a much happier ending after your next attempt as Robin Hood.
And there's something a little bizarre about this. In this ending, King Richard laments the death of Marion, which means if you raise no money, Richard will act as if Marion is dead, even if she survived and was just in court testifying in your favor. But let's part on a happy note. To get the best ending, you need 61,000 marks and a reputation score of at least 4,250. For most playthroughs, this means being nice to everyone, but if you have the maximum number of outlaws, you can skip the jeweler and get exactly the amount of points that you need. Never really liked that guy anyway.
I am not finished. You deserve more than a mere pardon. The ransom you raised went far in securing my own freedom. Kneel, Robin Hood. And rise, the Earl of Huntingdon. Furthermore, my present Sheriff of Nottingham is hereby under arrest for treason. What say you to giving the job to Little John?
I can think of no better man.
The abbot shall take himself from my sight forever, or have a taste of the fiery stake with which he dared to harm the Lady Marion. The worthy Friar Tuck shall be the new abbot of St. Mary's. And yonder Prior, most evil cur, you are exiled from my kingdom, and your order disbanded for all time. I shall instruct my new sheriff to slay you on the spot if you are not gone from my shores within the week. Are you content, Huntington?
My lord, you've done me such honors as I've never dreamt. Yet there is one desire, the deepest of all, yet to be fulfilled.
Then speak it, man, and it will be done.
I ask for the Lady Marian's hand in marriage.
Does my lady consent to this?
With all my heart.
Abbot Tuck, let your first job in office be the marriage of the Earl and his lady.
I bless this marriage and declare thee husband and wife. Earl and Lady Huntington, you may seal this pact with a kiss.
These days, we're spoiled by games with tons of detail. Heck, you can make an entire YouTube career out of obscure Witcher 3 facts. But in the 90s, and especially for point-and-click adventures, this level of detail, this amount of player choice, was nearly unheard of. Sure, sometimes Longbow's ambition exceeded its execution, but there's just so much here. I mean, I haven't even told you the whole story yet. I didn't tell you the trick for cheesing the coat of arms copy protection. I didn't explain how you can skip the forest chase sequences. I didn't show you how using the hand code breaks the game, or how pressing one key at the right time lets you avoid almost all the conversations at camp. In the next video, we'll dive into Conquests of the Longbow speedrunning, and you'll learn how speedrunners turn Robin into an absolute coward. If that video's out, you'll see it on screen now. If not, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. A big thanks to all of my patrons, and especially to everyone who voice acted the characters. Take care, stay safe, and try to be better than much.